People talk about having cheat days on the carnivore diet. Usually it's people who are new to the carnivore diet or carny curious or whatever the case may be. A cheat day is where you break from the plan. It could be a minor kind of thing where you have something that's maybe if you're a strict carnivore, you don't stick to being strict for that day. Or it could be where you just kind of go off the rails a little bit. You decide you're going to go have a slice of pizza after being carnivore for a while. And usually when you see people admit they had a cheat day after on social media after the fact, they admit how awful they feel, not necessarily on an emotional level, although there's often a lot of, guilt that people express, but how they just physically feel bad. Their stomach doesn't really react well to it. And, they sort of humbly admit it was a terrible idea. I'm going to tell you about the cheat day I had. And for those not aware, I'm Anthony Stine. I have a PhD in sustainable development policy and the rest of it. And I've been carnivore for a while now, and I've lost up to now 140 pounds doing the carnivore diet. And I keep strict carnivore: no coffee, no artificial sweeteners, eat mostly beef, a little bit of pork, occasionally some chicken, but mostly beef and some lamb. And don't even drink coffee. Okay, I do strict carnivore with a few organs a couple times a week because they tend to make me feel better than if I don't have them. I found that out through trial and error. And I'm going to tell you about the cheat day I had. So a few months ago, I decided to take a break. Not really a break, but I decided to I just needed something extra. One of those days where you could just use a little something extra. And I had some pork rinds. I might think pork rinds aren't cheating on the carnivore diet if you're having good quality pork rinds. So the ones I had, here's a picture over my shoulder. I don't have spices. I thought I had a bag of Epic brand Himalayan sea salt pork rinds in the cupboard. It turned out when I was at the store and bought them, I was looking at the sea salt ones, but I grabbed a pack of the black pepper ones. You may not think that's big a deal, especially if you are someone who can handle spices on the carnivore diet. And I didn't think much of it because I hadn't been off spices that long at that point. Like I had kicked them to the curb 3 weeks earlier, maybe, if that. And so I had them. It's not a very big bag. I had the whole bag. First time I'd had a snack really in a long time while doing this diet. I went to bed that night. My stomach felt a little weird. It felt full in a fuller way than I'm used to. I didn't think much of it. Maybe I had a little too much to eat that day. The next morning was fun. I got up and had to rush to the restroom. That was odd. That's not something I deal with when doing carnivore, is that kind of thing. And afterwards, I thought it was because I ate something just so processed. Okay, like, pork rinds, far more processed than I'm used to. It didn't occur to me that it could be the black pepper, even though when I was eating them, I've never been someone who's had a problem with spices. In fact, my wife will tell you that I'm the guy where we would go out somewhere, relatively casual dining place, and I'd get, chicken wings. And if we were, say, Buffalo Wild Wings or some other place like that. I was the guy when doing keto where I would go to the hot sauce and say, okay, let's get one of the hotter ones. The only hot sauce at like Buffalo Wild Wings I ever had a trouble with was the second hottest one. That was when things actually got hot for me. So I was never sensitive to heat. Well, a few weeks without any kind of spices other than salt, which isn't even a spice. And what happened? My mouth wasn't on fire, but it was uncomfortable. And this is just black pepper. That was weird. But the next morning, I thought it was because of the processed food, the processed nature of these things. Even though Epic brand pork rinds is a good brand, this is pork skins fried in their own fat. I don't know anything about the quality of pork they use, but it's generally considered a good brand among people health conscious about the things they eat. So moving on, a few weeks later, I was making a brisket for Mother's Day. And at the last minute, as I was seasoning it, I wasn't going to have any of it myself, actually. I was going to just let my mother and my wife have all of it, and I'd make something else on the side for me. But I decided, screw it, and I put black pepper and garlic on. The classic seasoning package for those of you who are not people who do barbecue much when you make a brisket is salt, coarse ground black pepper, like very coarse ground black pepper, and garlic powder, and it's laid on thick because it helps to develop a nice bark on that meat. Absolutely delicious. I decided to say, okay, I'll have it. I've never had a problem with spices. Remember, I thought the pork rind issue was because it was processed, not because of black pepper. So it was Mother's Day. I made the black pepper encrusted classic style brisket. I smoked the brisket. We had a nice dinner. It was phenomenally delicious. And the next morning, same thing, run to the bathroom. That's when I figured it out. That's when I figured out that my cheat day was just dialing back a little bit and allowing myself to have spices, which, quite frankly, I want to be able to add back in. I like making barbecue properly, where it's got all the spices and everything else, and you get the nice bark on the outside, you get the complex flavor profile of the whatever the wood you're smoking your meat with, combined with the the flavor profile of all the spices. I like that. It's wonderful, and I do want to add spices back in after I meet my goals. But the problem is, and I'm going to make a video, I think, about unintended consequences of going carnivore. I think I developed a spice allergy, not allergy, but sensitivity. I certainly wasn't sensitive to these things beforehand. I told you about the chicken wings. I used to be able to eat a whole jar of kimchi in one sitting. Not one of the huge jars, but I used to be able to, if I wanted to, eat a whole jar of kimchi. I'd never had a problem with hot things. Certainly not table pepper. Certainly not table pepper. It was the funniest thing. So I think cheat days are a terrible idea. That people should stick to the plan, because you don't really know, even if it's just like a very mild cheat day, or you just sort of decide to lighten up a little bit, right? You don't know what the consequences are going to be. If there's going to be unintended consequences of, you've kicked all the spices to the curb, decided you're going to have, a really nicely spiced up steak, or in this case, brisket like I had. You don't know what the consequences might actually be if you've been doing it, because going carnivore is an elimination diet. That's what it is. This is why everyone tells you that if you're going carnivore, start out strict carnivore. Go as strict as you can on the carnivore diet at the beginning. Why do we say that? Very simple reason. Because you probably have some underlying food sensitivities you are not aware of. Again, I'm not actually convinced that I have a spice sensitivity, not a natural born one. It could simply be my palate has changed and that my digestive system is a little more sensitive, my gut microbiome and all the rest of those kind of things. That could be the reason this happened. I guess we'll see when I reach my goals and I decide to try to see what happens when I add spices back in, because I suspect spices might be the first or second thing I add back in. Honestly, dairy will probably be the first thing that I try to add back in, going for raw cheese. You can't find raw milk in Oklahoma where I live. You have to go to it's legal for you to buy it from a farm directly, and every farm around here has got a long wait list for raw milk. And so you can't find raw kefir or raw milk yogurt or anything like that here. But you can find raw milk cheese that, in the grocery store, which I guess is a small comfort. But the first thing I'll add back in will be dairy, just when I reach my goals, because I've now lost 140 pounds. And I'll do something on my diet protocol. It's extremely unorthodox for the carnivore diet because I actually track macros. And I had to after doing months and months of just eating till I was comfortably full. And all I did was not lose weight doing that, which is my primary goal on the carnivore diet. But that's a bit of a personal life update, and because the add back in phase, the meeting goals phase, is not, having met goals is not that far away for me now. It's actually pretty close. And that's kind of weird because I've been doing this now for 18 months, trying to lose weight. And it's remarkable because you're always afraid when you start a diet that it's not going to work, right? When you really need to lose a lot of weight like I needed to lose. You're always afraid it's not going to work, but when you start getting close to a place where you're happy, and I just want to get under 20% body fat, when you get close, it's all of a sudden all those sort of abstract ideas about what comes next become very real. And then you start having to really calculate if they're a good thing or not. Anyway, let me know if you had a mild cheat day like I did. Let me know in the comments if you did. Let me know what happened. If something negative happened, or it wasn't even anything big. It was maybe when you were keto, you stuck very much to the classic clean keto protocol. And they decided to add in some berries one day and it just wrecked you. Let me know if that happened to you. Or let me know in the comments if you're carnivore like I am and you decided to have something slightly off plan that wasn't even that big of a deal and it wrecked you. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help these new channels grow. And always go out and optimize your day today.